The pastor pauses mid-sentence. The sanctuary goes completely silent. I look down at the funeral program in my shaking hands, scanning the page again and again. My name is missing. Not under survived by, not anywhere. My brother stands at the front, calm and composed, receiving sympathy like he's collecting rewards. The pastor clears his throat, a sharp, uncomfortable sound that echoes through the silence. He stares at his notes, then back at the program, his brow furrowing visibly. Whispers ripple through the pews behind me. Someone actually turns around to stare at me like I don't belong here. The grief I've been carrying for 3 days suddenly snaps into something else entirely: rage. This isn't a mistake. This is deliberate. This is my own mother's funeral, and according to the program, I don't exist. The pastor's eyes find mine across the crowded church, and I see something there. Confusion. Maybe even alarm. My brother's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly as he notices the pastor's hesitation. The pastor stares at the program again, his weathered fingers trembling slightly as they slide toward an envelope tucked inside the binding. His face changes completely. The color drains from his cheeks. He starts to speak, stops, then coughs again, louder this time. The entire congregation shifts restlessly. He begins, then stops completely. He doesn't continue reading Mom's obituary. Instead, he looks directly at my brother. My brother subtly shakes his head, just once, but several people in the front row notice the exchange. A woman behind me whispers, "What's happening?" The tension becomes suffocating. Every person in that church feels something is wrong. The pastor clears his throat a third time and skips an entire section he was supposed to read. I realize with growing horror that there was something written there, something that wasn't supposed to be shared today, something my brother made sure would stay hidden. The elderly woman beside me leans forward, squinting at her own program. "Excuse me, dear," she whispers loud enough for others to hear. "Aren't you Margaret's daughter?" Multiple heads turn. The question hits me like a physical blow. My name is Lena, and I am sitting through my own mother's funeral as if I never existed. My brother decided I didn't deserve to be named among those who mourn her. And the worst part? No one stops it. No one questions it openly. This is not the first time my family has erased me from important moments. It's just the first time they've done it in public, in front of God and everyone Mom loved. I've spent 32 years learning to accept being overlooked, being dismissed, being treated like an afterthought. But this crosses a line I didn't even know existed. Mom would have been horrified. She would have stood up and corrected this herself. But Mom isn't here anymore, and my brother clearly thinks that means he gets to rewrite history. He thinks no one will notice. He thinks no one will care. He's wrong. The pastor keeps glancing at that envelope, and I'm starting to understand that Mom might have anticipated this exact moment. Growing up, I learned early that silence kept the peace in our house. My brother was always the responsible one, the one who spoke for the family at school events and family gatherings. When relatives called, they asked for him. When decisions needed to be made, Dad consulted him. I was the quiet daughter who helped with dishes and stayed out of the way. It wasn't malicious, exactly. It was just how things were. My brother had opinions about everything. What I should wear, what I should study, who I should date. And everyone listened to him because he was articulate and confident and seemed to know what was best for everyone. I accepted it because I didn't know there was another way to exist in our family. Even as an adult, even living in my own apartment with my own job, I still deferred to him during family visits. It was easier than fighting. It was easier than being told I was being difficult or too sensitive. But now, staring at this program where I don't exist, I finally understand what that pattern really was. During Mom's last weeks, when everyone else was too busy to sit with her for more than a few minutes, I was there. I took vacation days. I rearranged my schedule. I held her hand while she dozed and listened to her stories about her childhood, stories she'd never shared before. My brother visited on weekends, stayed for an hour, and left feeling good about himself for checking in. But Mom asked for me. She called my name when the pain medication made her confused. She told me things she'd never said before, things that seemed important but didn't make complete sense at the time. "Your brother likes control," she said one afternoon, her voice barely above a whisper. The way she said it made my stomach tighten. She didn't sound disapproving exactly. She sounded afraid. I asked her what she meant, but she just patted my hand and changed the subject. Now, watching him control even her funeral, I understand exactly what she meant. And I'm starting to understand why she sounded so worried. 3 days before Mom died, she made me promise something. She was more alert that afternoon than she'd been in weeks, more focused. She pressed a small bundle of papers into my hands, not official documents, letters, sealed envelopes with dates written in her careful handwriting. "If anything feels wrong after I'm gone," she said, gripping my hand with surprising strength, "don't let it go. Promise me." She paused, looking directly at me. "I've also sent letters to others, Pastor Williams, your Aunt Helen, the lawyer. Instructions they're supposed to follow regardless of what anyone else tells them." I promised without really understanding what I was agreeing to. The letters felt important, sacred somehow. I tucked them into my purse and forgot about them in the chaos of her final days. But sitting here now, watching the pastor struggle with whatever he found in that program, I remember her words exactly. If anything feels wrong, don't let it go. Being erased from my own mother's funeral definitely feels wrong. The letters are still in my purse, still sealed. I haven't had the courage to open them yet. Something tells me I'm about to need that courage. After Mom died, my brother immediately took charge. He called the funeral home. He arranged everything. When I offered to help, he told me it was handled, and I should just focus on grieving. I was grateful, actually. I was overwhelmed and exhausted, and having someone else manage the details felt like a kindness. He told me when to show up, what to wear, what time the service would start. I wasn't asked to proof the program. I wasn't asked to speak or choose readings or approve the obituary. I was told to just show up and be present. It seemed reasonable. He was always better at organizing things, at dealing with people in authority. I trusted him to honor Mom the way she deserved. I trusted him to represent our family with dignity and love. I trusted him to include me in that representation. Looking back, I can see how naive that was. He didn't ask for my input because he never intended to include me. This was his show from the beginning, and I was just supposed to sit quietly in the audience while he performed grief for the crowd. After the service, during the receiving line, my worst fears are confirmed. People approach me with confused expressions, asking who I am in relation to the deceased. Someone actually assumes I'm a family friend. Another person asks if I'm a niece from out of town. My brother stands 3 feet away, shaking hands and accepting condolences, and he doesn't correct them. He lets it happen. He lets strangers wonder who I am while he basks in the sympathy meant for grieving children. Mrs. Peterson, who's known our family for 20 years, looks genuinely puzzled when she sees me. "Lena, dear, I didn't see your name in the program. Are you all right?" I manage to nod, but I can't speak. The humiliation is crushing. My brother finally approaches, placing a hand on my shoulder with practiced concern. "Lena's taking this very hard," he tells Mrs. Peterson. "She's not really up for talking today." The implication is clear. I'm too emotional, too fragile, too broken to be trusted with public interaction. Mrs. Peterson nods sympathetically and moves on. My brother's performance is flawless. That evening, I corner him in Mom's empty house. The rage I've been swallowing all day finally breaks free. "Where is my name?" I demand. "Why wasn't I mentioned anywhere in that program?" He doesn't even look up from the sympathy cards he's sorting. "It was a formatting issue," he says calmly. "The printer made some errors." The lie is so casual, so practiced, that I almost believe him for a second. "Almost. A formatting issue that only affected my name?" I press. "That somehow left out every reference to me existing?" Now he looks at me, and his expression is patient in the most condescending way possible. "Lena, you're being emotional. I understand you're hurting, but you're embarrassing yourself." He pauses, then adds quietly, "Besides, let's be honest, no one would have noticed anyway." The words hit like ice water. "This isn't about emotion," I say, my voice shaking. "This is about being erased from my own mother's funeral." He shrugs. "Maybe you should focus on grief instead of drama." The next morning at the graveside service, Aunt Helen pulls me aside after the final prayer. She's Mom's youngest sister, always the most direct member of the family. Something's not right, she whispers, glancing around to make sure my brother can't hear us. Your mother didn't want him in charge. My stomach drops. What do you mean? She called me 2 weeks ago. She was worried about arrangements. She said she'd made provisions and sent letters to multiple people, but she wasn't sure they'd all be honored. Helen looks genuinely distressed. She specifically mentioned you, Lena. She said you were the one she trusted to do things right. I feel dizzy. Did she say anything else? She said if anything seemed wrong after the funeral, I should talk to you directly. Not your brother, you. Helen presses a piece of paper into my hand. This is Pastor Williams's direct number. She made me promise to give it to you if needed. I stare at the number, my mind racing. Why would she think something would go wrong? Helen's expression is grim. Because she knew your brother better than any of us wanted to admit. That night, alone in my apartment, I finally open one of Mom's letters. My hands shake as I break the seal. The letter is dated 3 weeks before she died, written in her careful script, despite her weakening condition. My dear Lena, if you're reading this, then something has gone wrong with my final arrangements. I've left specific instructions about my funeral, about what should be read and who should be acknowledged. I've also sent copies of my wishes to Pastor Williams, Aunt Helen, and Mr. Davidson. If those instructions have been ignored, there are other letters in this packet. Look for the one marked Pastor Williams. It contains a backup copy of the message that was always meant to be shared, no matter what anyone else decides. I search through the remaining envelopes frantically. There it is, Pastor Williams. Backup copy written in Mom's handwriting, with a note underneath. To be opened only if funeral plans are altered. The letter is thicker than the others, more formal. My heart pounds as I realize what this means. Mom knew. She knew exactly what would happen, and she prepared multiple safeguards. She protected me even after death. I call Pastor Williams the next morning. His voice is gentle but troubled when he answers. Lena, I was hoping you'd call. I owe you an apology. For what? For yesterday. For freezing up during the service. 3 weeks ago, your mother mailed me a letter with very specific instructions. She told me to include it with whatever funeral program was prepared, regardless of who brought it to me. When your brother delivered the program yesterday morning, I tucked her letter inside as she'd requested. My pulse quickens. What did her letter say? It contradicted everything your brother had told me about the arrangements. He said you were too grief-stricken to be involved, that you'd requested not to be mentioned publicly. But your mother's letter specifically asks for you to be acknowledged and thanks you by name for your care during her illness. There was also a longer passage about your relationship that was supposed to be read aloud. I feel sick. Why didn't you read it? Your brother saw me hesitate when I found the letter. He indicated you'd be devastated if it was included. I trusted his judgment as your family member. Pastor Williams sounds genuinely remorseful. I realize now that was a mistake. Your mother anticipated this exact situation. When I arrive at the lawyer's office for the will reading, my brother is already there, tapping his foot impatiently. Finally, he mutters as I sit down, we've been waiting. The lawyer, Mr. Davidson, looks uncomfortable. Actually, I've been trying to reach you, Lena. There's been a delay. What kind of delay? My brother demands. There are some questions about the executor designation. I need to verify a few things before we proceed. My brother's calm facade cracks slightly. Questions? What questions? Everything is straightforward. Not exactly, Mr. Davidson says carefully. I've received some additional documentation, but I must warn you, challenging established funeral arrangements posthumously can be complicated. The church has expressed concerns about reopening what they consider a closed matter. My heart sinks. What kind of concerns? Pastor Williams called. He's hesitant about holding any kind of memorial follow-up. He's worried about appearing to take sides in what looks like a family dispute. My brother leans back, suddenly relaxed again. I'm not at liberty to discuss details until I've verified authenticity. We'll need to reschedule. As we leave, my brother's confidence has returned completely. That evening I spread Mom's papers across my kitchen table, but my phone won't stop ringing. My brother has been busy. Uncle Paul calls first, his voice cautious. Lena, I'm getting some concerning calls. Your brother says you're struggling with Mom's death more than anyone realized. My stomach drops. What do you mean? He's worried you're creating problems that aren't really there. Says you're seeing conspiracies in normal grief arrangements. The doubt in Uncle Paul's voice is crushing. Another call follows. Mom's neighbor. I heard you're upset about the funeral, dear, but maybe it's better not to stir things up. Your poor brother is trying so hard to honor your mother. Email after email shows Mom explicitly naming me as executor, expressing concerns about my brother's tendency to override others' wishes. But now I wonder if anyone will believe them. There's even an email where she writes, I'm concerned that my son will try to minimize Lena's role after I'm gone. But my brother is already 3 steps ahead, painting me as the unstable sister who can't accept reality. By evening, I'm questioning everything. Maybe I am being too emotional. Maybe I am imagining things. Hidden in the same folder, I find the backup letter she referenced, the copy of her message to Pastor Williams. I break the seal with trembling fingers, desperate for clarity. It's longer than the others, more detailed. Pastor Williams, if this letter reaches you, it means my funeral arrangements have been altered against my wishes. I want you to know that my daughter Lena has been my constant companion during my illness. But as I read Mom's beautiful words about my devotion and sacrifice, my phone buzzes with another text from my brother. Aunt Helen is very concerned about your mental state. Maybe you should talk to someone professional. Then another. Pastor Williams asked me to handle all family communications going forward. He doesn't want to enable an unhealthy grieving process. The letters in my hands feel suddenly fragile, possibly meaningless. What if everyone believes his version? What if I really am just the grieving daughter who can't accept that she wasn't as important as she thought? Tears blur my vision as I read Mom's final lines. My daughter has a voice, even when others try to silence her. Help her find it. But right now, I'm not sure anyone wants to hear that voice. Word spreads quickly through Mom's social circle, but not the way I hoped. My phone rings constantly, some supportive, others suspicious. Aunt Helen calls, her voice strained. Lena, I've been getting calls. Your brother says you're having a difficult time accepting reality. The doubt in her voice breaks something inside me. But then she continues. But that doesn't match the conversation I had with your mother. She specifically warned me this might happen. My breath catches. What? She said if your brother tried to make people think you were unstable or dramatic, I should remember what she told me. Lena has always been the strong one. If she's fighting for something, there's a reason. More calls follow. Mom's former coworker reaches out. Your brother called to warn me you might contact me with wild stories. But honey, your mother talked about you constantly. She was so proud. Something doesn't add up. Each conversation reveals the same pattern. My brother's campaign to discredit me, but also Mom's quiet campaign to protect me. She'd been building a network of witnesses who would remember her true feelings, even if someone tried to rewrite them. When my brother stops by my apartment that evening, his confident mask is slipping again. People are getting the wrong idea, he says, but his voice lacks its earlier certainty. You need to stop this before it goes too far. Pastor Williams calls with news that makes my stomach flip. I've spoken with the church board about holding a memorial follow-up service. After receiving several calls from congregation members who remember your mother's conversations about you, we've reconsidered our position. Given the discrepancies in the original arrangements, we feel it's appropriate to honor your mother's actual wishes. What does that mean exactly? It means I'll be reading the letter she intended for the congregation to hear. The letter about you, about your care for her, about her love for you. The things that should have been said at her funeral. My brother won't be able to stop this. The church has the documentation. They have Mom's own words. Pastor Williams continues, the service is scheduled for Sunday afternoon. I wanted you to know in advance so you could prepare yourself. This will be emotional. I think about Mom's final letter, about her hope that I would find my voice. Pastor Williams, will the whole letter be read? Everything she wrote? Every word, he promises. Exactly as she intended. My brother shows up at my apartment that night, and for the first time in my life, I see him truly rattled. Gone is the calm, controlled persona he's maintained since childhood. His hands shake as he paces my living room. "You're destroying this family," he says, his voice rising. "Do you understand what you're doing? People are talking. People are taking sides. You're turning Mom's death into some kind of circus." "I'm honoring her wishes," I reply quietly. "The wishes you ignored." "Her wishes?" He spins around to face me. "She was dying, Lena. She wasn't thinking clearly. Those letters, those emails, she was medicated, confused. None of that represents what she really wanted." The desperation in his voice is almost frightening. She wanted dignity. She wanted a peaceful service. "Not this vendetta you're pursuing." I stand up slowly. "A vendetta? I just wanted to be acknowledged as her daughter." "You'll regret this," he says, pointing at me. "When this all blows up, when the family splits apart, remember that you caused it. You couldn't just let sleeping dogs lie." Mr. Davidson calls the next morning with an update that changes everything. "I've completed my review of the documentation. Your mother's final instructions are clear and legally valid. She did name you as executor in her most recent will, dated 6 weeks before her death. Your brother was never authorized to make the funeral arrangements he made." The relief is overwhelming, but there's more. Additionally, she left specific instructions about how her estate should be handled, including provisions that contradict some of the arrangements your brother has already initiated. "What kind of arrangements?" "He's been in contact with realtors about selling her house. He told them he had authority as executor. He doesn't." My breath catches. He was going to sell the house? According to my notes, he planned to list it immediately after probate. Your mother's will specifically requests that you be given the option to purchase it at market value before any outside sale. The betrayal cuts deep. While I was grieving, he was already planning to profit. The memorial service is set for Sunday at 2 p.m. I spend Saturday in a state of nervous anticipation, unsure what to expect, but certain that everything is about to change. Mom's letter will be read. Her true wishes will be known. The congregation that watched me sit anonymously in the back pew will learn who I really was to her. Saturday night, my phone rings constantly. Family members, church members, people I haven't spoken to in years. Word has spread that something significant is going to happen. Some calls are supportive, others are concerned about family drama being aired in public. My brother calls once, but I don't answer. I'm done listening to his version of events. I'm being told I'm too emotional or too sensitive, or misunderstanding the situation. Tomorrow, Mom's own words will speak for me. Tomorrow, the truth gets told whether my brother approves or not. I lay out my best dress, the navy blue one Mom always said brought out my eyes. Tomorrow, I exist again. The church is fuller on Sunday than it was for the original funeral. Word has spread, and people are curious. I sit in the front row this time, not in the back. Pastor Williams nods at me as he approaches the podium. My brother sits across the aisle, his jaw clenched, staring straight ahead. "We gather today," Pastor Williams begins, "to correct an oversight from our previous service. Sometimes in our grief and haste, important words go unspoken. Today, we speak them." He unfolds Mom's letter carefully. "These are the words Margaret wanted you to hear about her daughter Lena." His voice is strong and clear as he reads every sentence Mom wrote about my devotion, my sacrifice, my love. He reads about the countless hours I spent by her bedside, the way I made her laugh even during her darkest moments, the peace I brought to her final days. The congregation listens in complete silence. When he finishes, there isn't a dry eye in the sanctuary, including mine. The fallout is immediate and devastating for my brother. As people file out of the church, they approach me with words I've waited my whole life to hear. "Your mother was so proud of you. She talked about you constantly. We had no idea you weren't properly acknowledged before." My brother stands frozen near the altar, watching his carefully constructed narrative collapse in real time. People who shook his hand and offered him condolences at the first service now look at him with confusion and something approaching disapproval. Mrs. Peterson approaches him directly. "I don't understand, dear. Why wasn't this said at the funeral? These are beautiful words about Lena." He mumbles something about timing and appropriateness, but his explanations sound hollow after hearing Mom's letter. Uncle Paul claps a hand on my shoulder. "This is what your mother wanted, kiddo. This is how you should have been honored from the beginning. The validation feels like sunlight after years of living in shadow. Finally, people see me the way Mom did. By Monday morning, my brother has lost more than just social standing. Mr. Davidson calls to inform me that the probate court has officially removed him as executor based on the evidence of his disregarding Mom's wishes. The court takes a dim view of executors who ignore the deceased's explicit instructions, he explains. Your brother's handling of the funeral arrangements demonstrated a pattern of substituting his judgment for your mother's. The house sale he'd planned is canceled. The accounts he'd tried to access are frozen until I can take proper control. Every decision he made, believing he had authority over Mom's estate, is now under review. It's not revenge exactly, but it is justice. Mom's final act was to ensure that her wishes would be respected, even if it meant protecting me from my own family. The brother who spent our entire lives speaking for me, making decisions for me, controlling my role in the family, finally faces the consequences of overreaching. He calls my phone 16 times. I don't answer. The estate settlement takes 6 weeks, but when it's finished, I understand the full scope of what Mom planned. She didn't just want me acknowledged at her funeral. She wanted me empowered to carry on her legacy exactly as she envisioned. The scholarship fund she established for nursing students, I'm the sole administrator. The donations she planned for the women's shelter where she volunteered, I'll distribute them in her name. The garden club she loved, the library fund she supported, the church renovation project she'd pledged money toward. All of it flows through me now. I also exercised my right to purchase Mom's house, keeping it in the family as she wanted. Her will doesn't just give me money, it gives me the responsibility of being her voice in the world, of continuing the work she cared about. Every month, when I write checks in her memory, I sign them with pride. Not because of the power, but because she trusted me with something that mattered to her. She knew I would honor her values, her priorities, her heart. My brother had wanted the authority. I got the trust. 6 months later, I walk through Mom's garden, my garden now, and think about erasure and memory. My brother tried to write me out of our family's story, to reduce me to a footnote or eliminate me entirely. But Mom had already written a different story, one where I was central, valued, loved. She spent her final weeks not just planning her funeral, but planning my future, ensuring I would have the resources and recognition to build the life she knew I deserved. I never sought revenge against my brother. I never had to. The truth was revenge enough. The simple act of honoring Mom's actual wishes, rather than his version of them, was sufficient to restore my place in the family narrative. He still doesn't speak to me. Some relatives say that's sad, that families shouldn't be divided. But I've learned the difference between family and people who share your DNA. Family protects you. Family sees your worth. Family doesn't erase you when it's convenient. I wasn't erased after all. I was protected, preserved, and ultimately empowered by a mother who loved me enough to plan for my freedom even after death.